Thank you for watching the On3 Performance Turbo Kit installation on my 1987 Mustang GT. Here we're going to test fit all the header bolts. We're going to make sure that each one will thread into the cylinder head. I do highly recommend test fitting the Hotside headers before permanently installing them to verify fitment. Now we're going to open up the copper RTV to apply around each header opening. Just a note, I did install my oxygen sensor back into the header. Now apply a generous bead of copper RTV around each header opening. Once you have all the RTV put down on the header, it's time to put it in the car. This is where test fitting can help plot a course of action how you're going to put the header in to avoid smearing the copper RTV you just put down. It doesn't matter which side you start with, but here we're starting with the driver's side. This is where having an extra set of hands is nice, because someone can hold the header in place while they get the header bolts started. Make sure you get all the header bolts started before you start tightening down. If you are reusing your oxygen sensors from your original mid-pipe, I do recommending adding some anti-seize to the threads to help them tighten into the new header. Now it's time to move on to the passenger side header. Essentially, we're going to follow the exact same steps that we did for the driver's side header. With the headers installed, now we're going to move on to the crossover pipes. We're going to start by opening up the supplied On3 Performance wastegate to attach it to the crossover pipe. We will start by removing the clamp. There's an attachment inside the clamp for a stainless adapter that will not be used. Also inside the wastegate already is a secure fire ring. This is something you do not want to make sure gets lost. Make sure it is firmly seated inside the wastegate so that way it can be attached to the crossover pipe and the wastegate. Have someone apply pressure down on the wastegate so they can secure the clamp around the crossover pipe. Tighten it just enough so that it's secure, but still allows you to swivel the exhaust opening port to get it in the direction you want it to go. Now's a good time to go ahead and install the vacuum fittings on the wastegate. You can also go ahead and attach the exhaust dump tube that goes to the opening portion of the wastegate. Now go ahead and move the passenger side crossover tube into place, attach it with the supplied V-band clamp, and begin to tighten. Do not fully tighten these, so that way it still allows you to have some adjustment. You'll want to just tighten enough so that way it can still swivel in place, therefore it can mate up to the other crossover pipe. Go ahead and install the other crossover pipe with the flex connection and loosely install the hardware. You may have to loosen and retighten the V-band clamps in order to get the proper fitment. It does come together very tight, but the pipes do fit. You will want to take your time at this point of the install. You don't want to have any exhaust leaks. I did use some copper RTV around each V-band joint. Once you have both crossover pipes in place, go ahead and fully tighten down the V-band clamps and the ball and socket flange. Now get the turbo out of the box and loosen up the exhaust side bolts. This will allow you to be able to clock the turbo. Now get the oil drain fitting and attach it to the bottom of the turbo. Now grab the oil drain and attach it to the oil drain fitting at the bottom of the turbo. Now we're going to test fit the turbo. We're also going to properly clock the oil drain. Clocking the oil drain is a very important part of the process. Do not overlook this step. Once you have clocked the turbo, go ahead and tighten down the exhaust side bolts. Now you will adjust the locating arm of the alternator bracket. This will give you proper clearance between the alternator and the turbo. Now you can tighten down the bolts to the turbo and the header and install your oil feed plate. Now go under the car to secure your oil drain to the oil pan and secure it with the clamp. You can now install your supplied adapter block that goes to your oil pressure sending stem to your feed line. You can now reinstall your oil pressure sending unit and route your oil feed line to your turbo. Now we're going to reinstall our spark plug wires. Make sure they are oriented in a way so that way they avoid the possibility of touching the header. Finishing off the hot side, we're going to install the downpipe. Once you fish it down into place, secure it with the supplied V-band clamp. Last but not least, go ahead and install your heat blanket to your exhaust side of the turbo. That completes the full hot side, turbo, downpipe, oil feed, and drain for the turbo kit. That's going to do it for this video. Stay tuned for part 4.